Joining us now to help decipher the Constitution and discuss what might or might not be technically impeachable are CBS News legal analysts. That's Jonathan Turley and Kim Wehle, and CBS News White House correspondent Paula Reid, who also covers the Justice Department. Good to have you all here. I say decipher because there is going to be a debate over how do you define high crimes and misdemeanors, which along with treason and bribery are how the Constitution lays out grounds for impeachment. I know, because we've been talking all week, that you think there is a case to be made for abuse of power. Is that what you think an article of impeachment could be?
I think you can make a case out for abuse of power, but you're going to have to do some changes. You got to reschedule, you've got to reframe this case, and you have to repeat some of this testimony, because right now this seems designed to fail. It's an incomplete record. And the problem is you have an audience that is listening just to hear the lines they want to hear.
Right.
When you step back and look at the whole, it is incomplete, and a member would have a good faith basis to vote against conviction on that basis.
Well, you heard Will Hurd of Texas, the congressman, say at the conclusion of the hearing that he was not persuaded. And he's one of the so-called moderate Republicans who people had been hoping might be able to be persuaded to go along with Democrats. And he basically said, I have not heard the case for bribery. Did you hear the case for bribery, Kim?
Well, bribery is expressed in the Constitution, and the idea is the framers did not want people in power using that power for their own personal gain. So if that's the definition, yes. And of course, high crimes and misdemeanors is actually broader than just bribery and treason, and includes things that can't be crimes. So for example, if the president were to move to the Kremlin and operate the White House out of the Kremlin, that wouldn't be a crime, but we'd say maybe that's impeachable. So there's some place in between just doing a bad job and crimes and abuse of power. And I think we are squarely in that area right now with this president.
You're saying it's not, when people apply their sort of law and order courtroom scenario to this particular case, you can't do that. It's not the same legal standard.
It's not the same legal standard, and it's really hard to wrap a lawyer's mind, my lawyer's mind, around what more we need, right? Besides directly the president asking for this actual bribe, so to speak, or $400 million, it will be withheld, White House meeting will be withheld, unless you announce an investigation into my political opponent. So we have interference in the election, again, by the president or part of with Rudy Giuliani. That's problematic, number one, and asking for foreign interference, which is banned by our federal campaign laws.
And you're skeptical of this. What would you need to hear to persuade you?
First of all, this is not bribery. The Supreme Court unanimously rejected this type of interpretation, unanimously in the McDonald case.
Right.
Right, but you can't invoke bribery, and then when people point out this isn't bribery, say, well, this is impeachment, it doesn't matter. You're invoking bribery because it's a serious criminal offense, and they don't have a complete record. This is like hearing Hamlet from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern alone. You need to talk to the royal family.
And it'd be great if the White House would comply with the subpoenas.
Well, I want to get to Paula on that, because you had Kellyanne Conway here saying they're preparing for all scenarios, Senate trial, or if the Democrats just don't move ahead with impeachment. What are they actually planning for?
No, this is all about the court of public opinion. As Kellyanne Conway said, the White House counsel's office, the attorneys they've hired, they're working on the legal strategy. But for the president, he's approaching this just as he's approached all the other investigations, with aggressive messaging, and he is the messenger. But our recent CBS News poll showed about 56% of Americans don't think he's doing a very good job, which is why you saw them bring in Pam Bondi, Tony Sayegh to help with the messaging. But it's been interesting. This strategy has really divided the West Wing. While the White House counsel's office wants to be very aggressive, protect executive privilege, there are others in the chief of staff's office and elsewhere in the West Wing who want to be more transparent. They feel like, look, if we have nothing to hide, let's be more cooperative. And then the communications staff, the folks who work there every day, they're not very happy they're bringing other people in. So it's unclear if this strategy has actually been successful outside or inside the White House.
Should we read into the fact that the legal team you just described, that communications team's not here? Or anywhere this Sunday?
Absolutely. We saw one of the members, Pam Bondi. She was on CBS this morning, earlier this week. She struggled with the basic facts of this case. So it does not surprise me that we now see Kellyanne Conway, who is one of the most effective advocates for the president, particularly when it comes to legal investigations, that she is now doing more of the forward messaging.
I want to ask you about the other development that we still don't quite have clarity on, which is what Rudy Giuliani's real role is. He's been very vocal in the past 24 hours or so. but also the fact that he himself is now the subject of an investigation. Is that a part of this story that you think needs to be fleshed out before Democrats go any farther?
It is. I mean, the Democrats have to decide if they want a real or recreational impeachment. A real impeachment means calling people like Giuliani and others to appear and then compelling them to appear. You can't create the shortest period of investigation in history for an impeachment and then impeach a president for failing to turn over documents in that period because he went to the courts. If that is obstruction for a president to seek judicial review in a conflict with Congress, then you could have impeached every living president, particularly Barack Obama, who made the same type of extreme interpretations when he refused documents and witnesses in Fast and Furious. So, you know, we at some point, adult supervision has to kick in here. And we have to decide, are we really trying to remove this president? And if so, the case has to be made.
What is Rudy Giuliani's role, Paula?
He is still a member of the president's personal legal team, and
Even though he's under investigation himself?
Yes, but he'd been gone quiet for a while, and then he burst back onto the scene over the last 10 days, and I texted him, I asked him, I said, is this at the direction of the president? And he told me that he takes his instructions from his client. So it appears even though he is under investigation by the Trump Justice Department for his dealings in Ukraine, the president continues to retain him as one of his personal attorneys, even working on Ukraine. And I have heard, and the president has said publicly, the reason is the president still sees Rudy Giuliani as he was in 9/11. He believes truly that he brings gravitas to his case and to his defense.
Well, it definitely keeps us busy. Paula, thank you. Thanks to all of us.